meeting to order. No, I guess one mayor, Kim and I got to present today to the, who was it, the Board of Realtors?
Yes, we started with.
Tim talked about, industry in our community and I talked about housing, so we got a little promotion done this noon with the Board of Realtors, so. Moving right along then. The first thing we have up is the new storage shed at Wildwood Golf Course, so Tyler, you wanna come on up and tell us what's going on?
So I know we got some new people since this winter on budget, so I'll kind of give the backup. A little bit. So at Wildwood, we've been so busy that we have a huge waiting list for people to get in cart sheds. Well, right now, we're using cart sheds to house our equipment. We don't have enough room for our equipment. So when we went to budget last year, it was to build a storage building that can house our rental carts, our equipment, and free up cart shed space. And we did that this year a little bit. We opened up a couple, but we sat some of our stuff outside because the waiting list was so big to get a cart shed. We wanted to open a few up, and we still got a waiting list that are waiting for this to get built, to open up more. So that is the kind of the background of this a little bit. So what we're looking at doing is building a storage thing that house our rental carts and equipment. And Joel had multiple people look at this project and he ended up getting 2 quotes back. One for 35,000 and one for 45,000. So we are looking at just moving forward with Countryside Construction. They said once they get to go, it'll take 3 to 4 weeks to get the equipment, the materials in, then they can start building after that. I applied for the permit through the city and reached out with our insurance and all that, so that's all good to go. I've been in talk with Johnny, he's helping me through the process, cause I've actually never built a building since I've been here, so it's been a little different, but, we kinda got all that rolling. Did I miss anything, John, that I needed? Okay.
When we talked about this before, I mean, it's good, if it's gonna open up space for, people to pay to store their carts. At the end of the day, I think that's a good thing for the golf course.
So we had a lot of discussion, at least the last 2 budget seasons regarding Wildwood and the need for more space. This was budgeted for, was in our capital improvement plan as well. The one thing I didn't get out of here is the foundation. What are we setting the building on?
Just a rock base for now.
Okay,
Yep,
for now,
yep.
what's
So then, in the future, if we have more money and stuff, then we'll cement it, but for now, we wanted the biggest bang for our buck. So we can get everything housed in one area, so it's just gonna be a rock base for now.
I see that electrical, plumbing, landscaping, trash is not included. Have you estimated those costs yet?
So, at first, we're not gonna have electrical in there, cause there's a storage building, we have a park and rec dumpster that we use anyway, so we won't have any worry about that. Our storage buildings don't have any water, plumbing, anything. They go to the clubhouse for that, or the restroom, so. Next summer, or whatever, we would look at running some electricity over there to get some lighting and stuff, but for now. It would just be storage, and that's why we have 3 overhead doors, so we can open those all up to let light in there, so we don't need electrical right away.
Thank you.
So, yep.
I'll try to do this before, but I assume this is more efficient than. I'm sure you thought of this building in relation to a possible new building out there, and it's better to build this now than wait on the decision, or?
For like the clubhouse discussion, well, so we just, Park and Rec just kind of talked about budget a little bit. We're looking at what it's gonna cost to do a study for that building, but I have a feeling by the time we get the study done, funds put together, the community backing, renovating or building new, we're probably 4 or 5 years down the road. That would be my guess. If it's earlier, that's awesome, but I don't see it probably moving much faster than that, unfortunately. So So
It's
that,
realistic.
yeah, well, that's something that Joel really wanted to is do that, but this is a need now and we know that'll take a while, no matter what happens for the clubhouse.
Thanks for letting me catch up.
Yep, not a
Another
problem.
question.
Any bids on site prep?
What's that?
Any bids on site prep?
So Countryside, we called them afterwards and said what it would be to do the site prep work, and they said they would donate that to it. We just gotta get the rock there. So. Yep, so we're in talks with the street department about getting rock there and everything else, so.
Other questions?
Sounds good.
This will be on our next agenda of our next council meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler. Right, so next we're going to go water. We'll let you lead the discussion, Corey.
All right, thank you. All right, so this is, looking at a new well, something we kind of talked about. Steve and I have talked about for a little bit now here, and we've had some issues with, well 5, which is at the water plant, was originally drilled in 1950. Well 7's at the water plant, 1963, and then we have well 8 behind the VFW, 2008. So trying to run 5 and 7 when we had issues with 8. We're just really not able to get the capacity that we have with 8, so I mean, I think it's kind of pushed it a little sooner up the timeline. So we've been working with Rustin from SEH here to do a viability study and just kind of get some ideas of cost analysis for a new well. I guess the idea would be, I guess there's a few options in here, but I think the best idea would be go behind the VFW, or we could tie into the same line going to the water plant, share a generator, and just have a separate well back there. So it's Rustin can, cut in some other stuff.
So part of that was the discussion of trying to utilize and maximize our infrastructure in place. And then the other driving force behind this was you folks are still CDBG eligible. So if you remember back from the water plant or Clearwell at the water plant, you were awarded with $600,000 in CDBG. Now it's $500,000. You're still eligible based on the LMI survey. And then they still, as with the Clearwell, when you were awarded that 1.1 million in loan forgiveness, there's still the availability of loan forgiveness out there. They're saying a sunset of 26, so if we can get on the IUP here sooner by the December 1 deadline, which Corey and I have been discussing with, there's the potential that that's still out there. It's not a guarantee, but there's still the potential of that.
I got several questions for you. So what if we choose to do nothing at this point?
That would be a Corey question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just kind of figuring out our weak spot with well 5. I mean, I guess we always like to have a backup. Maybe 2 is 1, 1 is none. I mean, right now we're sitting with, I'd say 2.5 maybe. I mean, so, I mean, I don't think any of the capacity, any of the big customers are going anywhere. We're trying to look into the future. I mean, stay ahead of everything until we are behind the 8 ball and everything's more expensive, I guess.
No, nothing's gonna get any cheaper.
Right.
And your water demand is actually going up, Pat, too. Within the report, it shows that each year it's been progressively going up for some reason. I don't know if you know what that is
I
specific.
think just, yeah, Zoetis, Cambrix, I mean, all the big users.
Which we could see an ask for an increase from any one of the 3, Valero, Cambridge, Zoetis, down in the future. How would that impact if we did nothing at all right now?
I guess, I mean, we can keep up with well 8 at 3,000 gallons a minute. The issue is like this, we had the vibration on well 8. 7 couldn't keep up. I mean, 5, they're so close to get together, they're drawing, I mean, basically the same water. So we draw 2,500 gallons and 500, we're really pushing it from right there. So that'd be the idea of having, say, 1 behind the DFW, we kind of blend 1 at the water plant and with well 8, we're not hitting so hard from one spot. So I mean, we can handle it, I guess, until
two things go wrong at the same time.
Right, so that kind of leads into my next question for, this is not in a SIP, so.
This is not, no.
So is there any trade space, what you have or asked for in the,
I think this would be, I guess I consider it an SRF going or something like that. I mean, obviously it would have been nice to have something this big in there, but as far as funding, I think it would have to be CDBG and SRF.
And that, Patrick, too, is why we kind of talked on the loan forgiveness potential that comes with the CDBG money and that to try to limit this effect on your system as much as possible. And again, with the sunset on the loan forgiveness, we were trying to just expedite the report piece to get you on that, you get started.
my last question is, why would we want to consider alternate one, which to me would be self-imposing more constraints? You had some alternatives to do. One was the alternative where you have, I think it's 7 and 8.
Yep, well, it'd be 8 and 9, yes.
Right, so would we be under the same constraints if we went with that?
Potentially, but what kind of drove some of it was the start of it, what if 8 fails? We would like to maximize that, and then utilizing the generator and the transmission main for both wells at one time was really to limit the amount of exposure you guys have to put in for capital dollars from the start. Because ultimately, the next step after this, is if 5 and 7 start to be jeopardized, is that you're looking at what's the next step, which probably is going to alternative 2, which would be potentially going north of the water plant and putting in another well.
We have to get all the water back to the plant, so that's, I mean, get the same line coming back from the VFW, behind the VFWP.
Yeah, I'm really big on water quality. Everything I read is going to be one of the more major issues within the state. We're already seeing it at the legislative level. We're going to see it in the national level. We're looking, like I always say, our infrastructure, a lot of it is old. And the dates that are provided in this, we're talking in the 60s when these wells were put in. And if you don't do it now, when do you do it? And you do it 5 years down the road, what's the cost of doing it then versus the cost of it now? It could be dramatically, but I guess I'd want to hear from my peers on their thoughts of it.
So the idea is to not run, if you put another well by 8, to not run those two at the same time.
That'd be good, you know.
So if something happens to 5 and 7 somewhere down the road, we're sitting with these 2 wells next to each other, which to me is gonna be somewhat of a bind.
Correct.
You know, if 5 goes down, I mean, you can run 8 and 7 and 9 and 7. But if something were to happen to one of those, or to 7,
So this, again, is a long-term planning thing where
Right.
this is the first step to what's the next step.
right, right.
And if your water production keeps going up, you're gonna need more water sooner than later, which is a good thing for your community.
What's the capacity right now at 8? I mean, I assume you guys have taken that into consideration. There's enough capacity there to sink another well in that area
Yes,
and get by for quite some time down the road.
yes.
How big a well would this be?
Capacity would be the same as
Well,
well,
they-
3,000 gallons. So Corey's found the sweet spot with the nuclear well now, that 3,000 gallons is running really smooth, pretty efficient within the plant. Line has been really efficient, so it's been working really well. So that would be the goal.
Do we know anything about the area north of the plant, Corey? We done any research out there?
I guess we haven't, I mean,
I wasn't aware that we had.
I know there's talks, when they originally built well 8, but that was before my time, and I guess I don't know any of that information.
Okay. Cause that would be about the only other spot that make any sense to me,
You know,
cause otherwise you're running a whole lot of pipe for a long way.
Which that's maybe a tomorrow problem, not a today problem.
Right, right. But like you say, it's something that's gotta be thought about and planned for somewhere down the road.
So with the 500,000 or in
with that, the loan forgiveness from the Clearwell. Saying that the stars align magically, what would our cost be?
Don't hold me to this, but again, this is just based off what we're starting with, Pat, potentially it'd be $700,000 local dollars on top with that extra money coming in.
So with alternate one, like Delane said, if you put that well near 8, you can't run it concurrently with 7, right? Or,
I think we potentially could, I don't think we would.
okay,
It's with any multiple wells, that zone of influence becomes more dramatic the closer you come together. But you could potentially run them at half capacity, probably run both of them.
Okay.
If we,
Yeah, ideally, we would, like you said, run at the plant, but until something happened there, yeah, I'd say when 5 went down, then we'd start looking at well 10, but you know, like. We're trying to get one step ahead here.
right, I'm just trying to figure out like, what's the best next step, like, is alternative 2 that would allow. They would spread them out a little bit, is that better? I don't know. Because then future water needs play into it too, and like, where do you put all the little pieces on the game board?
yeah, so you're gonna build those calls, Phoebe, not us, from the people's, it's just more money. Really, that's what it becomes, it's more money.
Yeah,
We're trying to do the most economical thing now with the resources we have available.
yeah,
We have the
100%.
land, we have. Pipe come back to the plant.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, it makes the most sense, I'm just trying to think, like. This is where I need to be able to predict the future, right?
Well, I think sharing the piping and the generator
Mhm.
really cuts down on the cost. If you split them, then you'd have to buy 2 generators and a lot more pipe.
Yeah.
So,
So again, the preliminary discussion was more of this is kind of the first step to the next step, or
Mhm.
whatever that may be.
The one next step to me should be that we get some kind of a exploratory well or something north of the plant. Before too many years go by to make sure that there's water there and it's reachable and it's good and everything else.
You know, the landowner by chance.
I do not off the top of my head, but I'm just saying, that would be something that should be researched rather sooner than later.
Just so we know if it's a viable location.
Exactly,
Like I said, we had a test well or some kind of test into this project,
right.
Yeah.
and so.
I'd be interested, to Elaine's point, I'd be interested in getting more information on that. I had just one more question, but I want to throw up the person though.
I had a great question until you put me on the spot. Oh, I just wanna make sure I have this timeline right, and see if Game of Chess has this possibility. I understand the timeline with the funding, and it sounds like December is when we need to get the things in to possibly qualify. If we don't get it, can we halt everything we're doing and wait till we can fit it into a budget, the expenses, or will we have gone so far in the project that we need to proceed anyway?
No, so that's probably a good point that you bring that up. So really, this is the reporting stage of where it goes to the DNR for approval. After report approval, then we would go into design. Then from design, we go to bidding and then construction.
Okay,
So there's multi steps to this. This is just the preliminary piece of it at this time.
so it sounds like the answer to my question is yes, we could kind of halt it if we didn't get the funding,
Yes,
but we definitely won't get it if we don't ask.
correct.
Thank you.
And you lose the possibility of the debt forgiveness. That's the kicker in the thing.
Mhm.
And also, I know when Chris Dickens had helped with the CDBG portion of this last project we did with the Clearwell. That grant funds, you don't know if they're long-term, short-term, anything with that. And again, that's why we're trying to just maximize your dollars moving forward at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, it's smart.
With the alternative one, what would be the timeline or something like that
So,
for
you guys,
completion? I mean, if we, were to give the go ahead.
if you were to move forward, I'm just gonna spitball this here. So basically, we would submit the report, have approval hopefully by December from the report, we'd be on the IUP at that time, we'd get going with the design. So say December, you'd hire us to do design, and we could have everything turned around by springtime.
Mhm.
potentially going in for the CDBG application, which that could be a little bit of a hindrance. Possibly drilling by next fall. Possibly, that's the best case scenario there. Might be a little longer.
Who would handle the grant writing?
You used Nyakog last time with Chris Dickens. I don't know if he would stick with that. They help with, or he can help with the last one.
And from the council, you're looking for what kind of answer?
I guess we just need the okay for the mayor to sign paperwork that we can submit the IEP.
And the report for the, to approve.
Do we have to say what option or just
Yes, yes.
see?
Say which alternative you're talking about. When you submit the report.
Yeah, because I guess Patrick's answer, so if you want to change the alternative, that's up to you folks if you want to do this, but I would have to just amend the report and we would submit it as such.
But with alternative two, wouldn't that involve a land purchase as well? So alternative one is probably what we're looking at right now, because we already own that land.
That would be my preference,
Yeah. Yeah. that-
And then, we could work towards alternative two as the next step, but
An alternative two could be on your sit for 10 years from now, or
Well, that was gonna be my point, Corey, is when we update the SIP, we really need that. Alternative two needs to be on there, where it gets placed. That's what we do during SIP, is trying to figure all that out.
yeah.
I like alternative one,
Makes sense.
with alternative two being in the SIP for, cause water, for me, water quality is number one for me.
And capacity, it sounds like now too, your capacity could become an issue. Especially if we get a new tenant, on North Grand, then we know that's gonna cause. I guess, I'll just ask you about that right now. If we do get a new tenant in that North Grand building, what type of issues might that cause with the water capacity right now in the wells?
I mean, that's the thing, we can keep up with well eight. I mean, since when I started in from 2008 to 2012, they only ran well eight. I mean, no cycling, no blending or anything. I mean, we tried to jump back and forth between 7 and 8. Like I said, this last time we had a vibration in 8, and then we couldn't get 7 to keep up, obviously 5. So the 2 of those were drawn, and basically our chlorine residual drops off with those 2. So, we're kind of a time crunch to get 8 pulled and put back in. So, like I said, we have the capacity until something goes wrong.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
So you like the approval to submit the plan at our next council meeting, is kind of where we're at.
Alternative one,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fine with that.
Sounds like a.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like one of those situations where we got everything to gain and really nothing to lose at this point, because we can always stop the process if we have to.
Yeah.
And why we want to run the risk of not having the debt forgiveness and the other parts of it, if that's still available out there, I think it's worth giving it a shot. But
Yep,
that's
I would
just my
agree.
opinion.
That's correct.
Okay, good.
Right, thanks.
you got your own way to help.
So while you're there, all right. I think you're also next on the agenda. High
Next
service
up.
pump number 3.
Yeah, so this is just a maintenance, and repair on high service pump 3. So this is the 200 horse. This is the main pump that supplies water to the distribution system to the tower. We normally run this one during the summer. So the idea would be to get this pulled, go through the motor, replace the pump, and just replace all the bearings and everything, and go through the whole thing as a checkup. This is something that is on the capital improvement plan. We had 50,000 budgeted and quote from Northway for 48,403.29.
Questions on this one?
Sounds like something better to figure it out.
Or is it all of us?
And it's budgeted, so
How long have you been on in the water business with the city?
It's 2012.
In that time span, have you seen anything with pumps or electronics getting any cheaper?
I mean, no.
What I thought. And this is, again, this is why we need to have, you know, that money set aside that comes in our monthly water bill. This is the stuff that pays for.
That's
I
right,
don't
yeah.
think the public really understands that. You know, all they wanna do is flush the toilet and make sure it goes away or turn the faucet on, it works, great. That's the easiest, you know, way to understand it, but how does everything work? And pumps and all the electrical pieces that go to pumps, I mean, nothing's getting any
You
cheaper.
know, valves, hydrants, yeah.
Where have you worked with Northway Well and Pump before?
They're kind of our go-to.
Or do you have like a lot of pumps equipment out there in the system that we don't have any idea when it was, you know, last serviced or when it was even placed in the service? Is that a big issue?
So we have just the 3 high service pumps at the plant. So I have records of when they're installed, and we do monthly oil changes and maintenance and stuff like that, but as far as going through, having pulled and taken back in the shop and going through, that's not really something, you know, we've done the well pumps.
Yeah.
This will be the first high service pump, second time we pulled this pump since I've been there. And we keep records on our work order program and all that stuff now, so.
but that's the problem with anything mechanical, it's gonna break down and it's not gonna break down necessarily on schedule.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with the CIP, is you can do all the planning you want to, and then the real world's gonna come up and slap you aside the face and say, I need some money now. And, I mean, the plan is good, but you have to know that these things are gonna come up.
Okay, any other questions, or we're okay for putting this on the next agenda again also?
Thank you for staying on top of it for us.
Well, I think it's John's item, the EPA response consulting fees from GHD.
Yes, so GHD grew, or GHD, it was Conestoga Rovers, then there was a merger there, but they've been our environmental consultant for the Shaw Avenue dump site for many years. And recently there was every 5 years, there's a 5-year review that the EPA does, and GHD needs to respond to that 5-year review, so they have provided us with a proposal for that response. And as I mentioned in my summary here, the work out there at the Shaw Avenue dump is split equally between Zoetis and the city. So their proposals for $40,350, so the city's portion would be $20,175. And Jeff Kuhn with GHD, he's on the Zoom meeting, and he can go through the proposal.
Thank you, John. So, yeah, so I'm gonna back up a little bit here. About a year ago, as John indicated, we did our meeting with the EPA 5-year review. Person there, Brian Zerbucken, was there, and he's the one who put the 5-year review together. We got the results. Can you hear me, John?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So we get the results in early June. We didn't know that they'd come out yet. He finally let us know that they'd come out. And as we started to review it, we had questions, some concerns about what they had put in there. And the next thing we know, Brian Zerbucken has left the agency, took an early retirement, and we were left with this information to deal with. And so we haven't had no chance to look at this. So in late August, we had a meeting or call with EPA, And one of the first things I indicated to them was we have had five-year reviews on this project, and this is the first time any of this information has been brought up. So it's unfortunate that he's no longer with EPA. We've got to put together a quality assurance project plan, which we knew we have to do. And we had indicated that when I met with you back in April of this year, that we'd have to be doing this. And so that was fine. I mean, we knew it. Every 5 years, they want us to redo these. And we've got to do it for the LaBounty site as well for the Zoetis. So we're putting that together. Some of the things that we were taken aback by was the requirement to do some additional site work. We don't know where that came from. And there are a few other things that he dug up on. As an example, rezoning part of the area from residential to some other non-residential activity. Where John, I know John, you're working through that with your planning board. And they want to know about PFAS, which we checked with Zoetis and Cambrex, and neither of them have ever used PFAS in any capacity. So we're going to try to get all that resolved and disillusioned. And so that's what the second part of the proposal is to work with EPA and try to address these comments and remove as much activity and work in the future from the site. So we don't want to be going out there and have to reinvestigate things because the site is essentially done. It's in care and maintenance mode. And now we're back into site investigation, which is unfortunate if that's what the EPA is going to make us do. But we're going to try to get that minimized or removed if at all possible. And that's what that second 10,000-ish is for.
Questions?
Could you clarify, FYR findings? What
So
are
in
the
so in the 5-year review, it's a very long document. I know John's got a copy of it, but in the at the end, they talk about findings that they want to have done. They want you to basically perform additional work or do additional things in there. And also there is a protectiveness statement that they have to illustrate that the site remedy is protective. And right now we don't have that protective. They have indicated they're going to defer protectiveness statement until we complete this additional work. So that's also unfortunate. And by the way, LaBounty is the same way. They did the same thing on LaBounty for both sites. The same person did. So we're working through that one as well. But the findings were like PFAS, prepare a QAP, do additional site investigation that was supposedly scoped back in 1990 or 91. And we're trying to verify what that was done and what the results were, because most of the results, from my understanding were very low concentrations in the soil of arsenic, basically background. So we're trying to figure out some of these issues. We're working with the zoning to get some of these areas rezoned, and also put an environmental covenant on the property, which it had one, but there is no map. And so we're trying to work that with it as well. So there's some things that can be done to minimize the overall exposure. And so once we document some of this information, we're hoping that the stuff will go away. Those are the major findings in the 5-year review.
So as I was reading through this, what kind of report does Zoetis, the city, being the city staff and the council get after expending these funds this calendar year or fiscal year?
So the first thing, the QAP is a very thick document. It basically details out how you're going to collect your samples, how the data is handled, what you're doing with the data, a bunch of procedures, and that's standard for CERCLA sites. And the site hasn't had one for quite a while, so it's due for an update. So that'll be a very thick report. And then the second portion is a letter to EPA documenting all the things I indicated we're trying to minimize Zoetis and city's exposure. to do additional work at the site, like site investigation activities. So that will be more of a quote letter type report.
Anybody else?
You guys have done this report for the city for years, correct?
Yeah, we have.
I mean, to me, that makes sense to have these individuals continue with it because they've got the background, they've got the history, and to try to think about trying to drag somebody else into this mess, it'd be a lot of wasted time.
And like he said, the frustration is now they're backtracking.
Yeah,
We already did all this
Yeah.
stuff once.
Exactly. I mean, that's the frustrating part is, and then we've gone through how many 5-year reviews, and then this one person comes in and basically has a different, in my opinion, a different opinion, and from others at the agency, and now he's no longer there. So that's the very frustrating part. And I pushed back on EPA on that too, and they didn't know what to say when I pushed back like that. So we will continue to push and get the best situation for the city and Zoetis as we can.
Jeff, is there a sunset on these 5-year reviews, or is this, how long does this process typically ongoing?
Until the remedy is in their mind secured. So typically it could run for infinity. So
So I was afraid of,
Especially when they backtrack.
that's what I was afraid of too.
Yeah. I think like Delane said, this, I sound like this is something we have to do. So let's go with somebody who has the background.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
I appreciate the
And- and-
explanation. It was a little more involved this time around.
it is a lot more involved, and we didn't anticipate this. Typically, Shaw has been an easy site to deal with, and they've had their protection statements all taken care of. We don't want to get into PFAS sampling because it was an open burn area out there at one time, and we don't want to be going out there and trying to find additional things that may or may not be of consequence any longer. The site is industrial. It's secured for the most part. So it was just very unfortunate that this has occurred on the EPA's part. But yeah, we are pushing back on it. And since it went through their regional director, we have to address it. We just can't ignore it. So that's our best way is to plow through it and minimize any exposure to the city. And hopefully we won't have to do much. If we have to do some sampling, it'll be very minor, but we are trying to even minimize that.
All right.
Okay, this will be on next Monday's agenda for action.
Thank you, Jeff, for all the explanation.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Next up, then we have final Main Street Bridge report. John, did you want to lead this off or you want me to? Or?
I can just give a brief introduction. This is continuing on with the feasibility study on the Main Street Bridge. Now, back in August, Lowell Miller was here and he provided a report on the draft feasibility study, just kind of to give the council a look at it, be able to make any comments before finalizing it. Now it has been finalized, and that's what we want to do tonight is allow more discussion on this and to kind of see if we can come up with a consensus on how we want to proceed. So I'll leave it to you, Mayor.
Sure. So like I say, so we do have a report from our consultants, but we've also had some questions from the Historic Preservation Commission, and John thought maybe it would be smoother to kind of have them address their issues. That way, when Lowell gives us his report, he can address some of their concerns. I don't think we're gonna get to all the nitty gritty of what you guys are proposing tonight, because that's kind of, as we move forward. But I guess if somebody wants to present kind kind of your summary of what your concerns are, what you'd like to do. And give a short synopsis of that, and then we can listen to Lowell. If he doesn't answer the questions that you had, you know, we can address that again, but, I don't know if somebody wants to speak for the group tonight, or what your plan is, what your thoughts are. Or you just wanna just hear what he has to say. I'm not seeing much, anybody stepping up to the microphone, so maybe we just,
It's gonna be me.
oh, Mark is gonna, all right, Mark. Does everybody have those?
Yes, it's in, it's in.
Great.
Take a packet.
Did Lowell get them?
Okay.
That I.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Good evening. So yeah, the commission met and just had discussion with this. They understand there's a lot of complexities about this. Their big concern, of course, is that it's on the National Register of Historic Places. And once we lose, you know, history, we can never get it back. I think you've asked some of the questions that we're also asking, especially since Weiss Replacement Bridge, 86 feet longer, is that needed? And obviously adds to the cost. We gave you an example of the Eureka Bridge project that was very similar. It was done to our bridge, and they chose to rehab it and save it due to its historic nature to show that it can be done. There were questions about, does the bridge need to be wide to remain a 4-lane road to traffic? Can it keep the same width and make 3 lanes with a turning lane in the middle? The biggest concern is Main Street Bridge is the heart of the downtown. If it has to be replaced, we need a signature bridge, not the cheapest and easiest. We need something that's also going to honor the history of this bridge that's there. I don't know if you want me to go through all the questions that are on here.
I think
You got a copy of it all.
Yeah, we've all got them.
They're curious about the design firm's history of rehabilitation, rehabilitating historic structures, and would it be prudent to get a second company quote, somebody who has a history of doing historic rehab, and they might, that's the question that was asked. And then what does the State Historic Preservation Commission say about this, and might there be preservation grant funding available? I think we want to make sure we look at apples to apples as far as replacement versus rehab of the bridge. And once we have a better idea of what we're looking at doing, going out and seeing what grant funding might be available out there to help. Run the proposed plans by SHPO to see if they think the bridge is still qualified for National Register of Historic Places with all the rehab work proposed. At the last meeting, there was extensive, basically they're taking everything off the facade, going down and taking the deck off. Mentioned that it hasn't seen the light of day. I think it's 1912. We don't know what's under there. And once that's done, you're committed to what's gonna happen. If we have to replace it, one of the comments was, there's bricks that are visible from Mill Street to the park, on the bridge. That they said would be good to incorporate into, if we can't reincorporate that into the site, possibly give that to the museum and preserve that history as well. Guys, is there anything I missed on that? You've got the full list right there, so. They're just here, they understand that you've got a very difficult decision to make. Our concern is that we make sure we just look at all options and comparing apples to apples.
All right, thank you for your comments. I think they definitely need to be taken into consideration, and I think Lowell will kind of, you know, maybe address some of those as far as. Again, we're not gonna get into design of the bridge tonight, but you know, some of the concerns about, is it longer, is it wider? Why is that proposed? Those, you know, those kind of made. Replace that bridge, then this bridge, what's the rationale behind that? And so I guess at this point, John, we just turned over to Lowell, do you think?
Yes.
All right.
All right, yes, thank you. Yeah, I'll try to address some of the questions that the historical preservation did. I'll start that, kind of start off with that piece of that. you know, one of the first questions was related to bridge length. You know, we are very much at the conceptual phase of this project. You know, there's a numerous factors that are going to affect, you know, what the final length of this bridge is, you know, related to, you know, like how the flume is positioned along the south bank. You know, we're assuming there's going to have to be some sort of protection downstream of the dam on the north bank, you know, to kind of do that. And the other thing too, we're balancing in there is, you know, I think we've discussed that before, the existing bridge creates around 1.7 feet of backwater. So when, you know, how all that stuff ties together and provide an improved waterway opening to meet current day criteria for the DNR, you know, all that needs to go in there. So yes, the bridge is going to get a little bit longer. We may be a little bit conservative, but there's too many things in there to really sit there and say, I don't think we really want to shorten it at this point. Do you want me to just continue going, or do you like to have a little conversation on each bullet item as we go here?
I guess I was curious, and I read through the preliminary document. What has changed from that document to this new one? You gotta give us a synopsis of any different information or whatever's in there.
You're talking from the when we met in August to current?
Yeah, the first one we got was dated August 21st, and the new one's dated August 29th.
Yes, there's very little that did change in there. I did clarify a couple things. I think I misstated a couple things on the cost opinion. My cost opinions are intended to be construction and contingency only and not engineering. So I think I cleaned a little bit of wording up on that. That was really about all that's changed between those two documents.
Okay, thank you.
So
the biggest, go ahead.
The next question I think was related to the Eureka Bridge in Greene County. Yes, I have obtained a copy of that set of plans. That bridge, how they went about widening that particular structure is they widened the foundations out and they actually widened the arch out. As I just mentioned, the existing bridge creates 1.7 feet of backwater. So as soon as we widen below the Q100 elevation, the DNR is going to require us to meet current backwater criteria. So doing a rehab similar to the Eureka Bridge is not a permittable structure by the DNR. So that's why we did not kind of follow down the path of the Eureka Bridge.
That's not what we asked. We didn't ask to widen the bridge like for Eureka. We use that as an example of what can be done.
Yes, yep. No, I understand that. And that's why we went back. We did Butler County City of Shell Rock Bridge, which I think that's what I kind of mirrored this rehab off of, was doing something similar to what we did down in Butler County. That bridge was on Cherry Street over Shell Rock River. And that's where we did cantilever the slat. We kept the structure width and everything the same as what it was, but we gained additional width by widening the top portion out and gaining the extra width by doing that, which I think is that is the type of rehab we would have to be considering at this particular site.
Why does it have to be widened like that?
It'll look weird.
If you cantilever over the edges, it would certainly lose its historic appeal and its registerless.
That is one of the challenges of attempting to apply modern day criteria to a 115-year-old structure, because it was not. As soon as you start applying federal dollars to a project, that means you have to meet current day requirements, standards, and codes. So that's why you get set doing. We need to hit certain width requirements.
So he said much hasn't changed from the preliminary report. So John, what is our goal tonight? To decide which direction we want to go, or is this just a preliminary discussion and we'll have more discussion?
Well, eventually we'll, we need to select, an option so that we can continue on with some designed to be able to search for grants for funding, as well as starting to have some conversations with the DOT. And correct me if I'm wrong, Lowell, but one thing is basically the council's going to have to agree that some type of improvement crossing improvement is needed. That's gonna have to be a council action item.
Yes, I think where we're gonna be at in the very, hopefully by the next council meeting is kind of acknowledging that an improvement project is needed at this site. Whether that's rehab or replacement. And I think it just goes back to what the historical preservation has brought up is once we've kind of got that commitment, I think there's another one or two little ports we need to do yet. But at that point, we can make that submittal to the DOT to start these discussions with Federal Highway, with SHPO. And that's where we can start getting their input. And I think we need to start having those conversations with those organizations before the city comes to a final conclusion of rehab versus replacement.
Lowell, could I ask just a couple questions real quick? You
Sure.
mentioned in terms of the width of the road that, if we are applying, grant money, federal money to this project, which I would anticipate we would attempt to find that and do that, that we're sort of locked in to meeting those modern day standards. It really prevents us from not widening it, and we would be seeking those funds, whether it was a rehabilitation or a new build. Am I understanding that correctly as the reason why it would have to be widened some?
That is correct.
Okay.
A more basic question, why does it need to be 4 lanes wide?
And then, Lowell, to be 4 lanes wide, it has to be 4 lanes wide to meet the modern day requirements, correct?
Modern day requirements are 12 feet for each lane, plus shoulders and sidewalks.
Okay.
Can we give the engineer a chance to answer the question, please?
The intent of all the work that I've done to date is a spot replacement or a spot repair, spot rehabilitation, spot bridge replacement at this location. We've not done any sort of engineering analysis to determine whether, you're talking about a design traffic study that would incorporate, if you look at the entire road system, go farther south, it's 2 lanes, it goes to 4 lanes, comes back to 2 lanes through downtown. I mean, our intent of our report was to look at the bridge in its current condition, maintaining 4 lanes similar to what the current pattern is.
And so
John, I'll let you speak on that too. I don't know. As a city engineer, you live in town, you drive this road every day, how this road is functioning and whether you feel, that the 4 lanes is appropriate and we should be maintaining it.
Well, that was one thing, we've not discussed this.
Right.
As far as width, we were just replacing what we have. That was the thought, is to replace what we have, so we could keep the same traffic patterns without having to change traffic patterns. Now, if we want to think about narrowing the bridge, then we need to look at it, basically the whole corridor as far as for traffic analysis.
So the 4 lane was put in because that's our current traffic pattern, and then I would also hazard a guess that would give us like kind of the maximum possible cost, because clearly if we chose to do something else like 3 lanes, that would change the cost probably down a little bit.
It would be a smaller bridge.
So your estimate is allowing us to see what is that maximum cost if we kept it at the current structure or the current traffic pattern. My second question to address something that Historic Preservation brought up, they mentioned SHPO. At what point during this planning phase, or once we get into design, at what point do we contact SHPO? What is your experience in in working with historic bridges? Where do they come into this?
Yes, I think they're very quickly becoming a part of this discussion. And that the DOT Department Location and Environment Bureau takes the lead in coordinating with the various review agencies. So like I said, in the near future, we'll be submitting what we refer to as a concept to the DOT, and that will start those discussions. The DOT will do a thorough review of the same analysis that we provided to the city and to indicate these discussions. They'll have a lot of the same discussions that we're having, you guys are having at the city level. And at that point, they will also talk to Federal Highway Bridge Engineer, and he will also review our report and start making decisions. At that point, they will start having that will start the conversations with SHPO as well. And the DOT is one that will initiate that conversation with SHPO on a federal aid bridge project.
And SHPO has not been engaged yet because technically the council has not requested us to move forward with some type of bridge project, right? We have just requested information on what could be done. So that's why SHPO has not been engaged. Is that correct?
That is correct. And my experience is SHPO does not generally want to work directly with me, a design engineer, or the city. They typically want to work through, if they know there's going to be a federal nexus tied to it, they want to work through the DOT and not directly. I think as conversations go on, there might be some discussions with the city directly with SHPO, but they like that conversation to be initiated by the DOT.
Okay, thank you. I think that kind of clarifies that question that Historic Preservation had about what does SHPO say about the project, because we haven't engaged them yet, and there's that you've explained why.
Yes, my understanding too with the federal aid side of things is, they don't want the city to make a formal decision of rehab versus replacement, until they've had some time to put some thought into it and provide some input as well. And that's why I'm kind of recommending that we just look at this as the city understanding that we need an improvement at this site, such that those discussions at those levels can commence.
And you've provided us with the rehabilitation plan. Could you just really briefly give us a little bit of your design firm's history with rehabilitating historic structures, so that historic preservation members here can take that back to their board?
Yes, I mean, the two that I'm very, very familiar with that I was, involved with at some level here was that the one that I mentioned, that Butler County Shell Rock Bridge. That was, very similar concept. It was an earth-filled arch. We removed the earth out of it. We turned it into what we refer to as an open spandrel arch. Same general concept. That bridge was in considerably better shape and needed much less patching. The exterior fascia walls were in much better condition. The other one that our office has been involved with was our City of Independence in Crawford County. That was another earth-filled arch. I think those arches had enough capacity on that one. We left that one as earth-filled, but we were also involved with that one. So, I mean, those are two that are probably the most similar to it. Our office has done a ton of work, as far as, repairs and rehabilitations on lots of different types of structures.
Thank you.
So let's go back to the August meeting. I questioned the cost compared to the bridge in Greenwood County that's just fixing to open up here very soon, which was much longer. So what did you find out that cost 5.8 million versus what was presented to the council?
Yeah, I tracked down those actual bid tabs on that one, and the actual low bid was 8.53 million on that project. So when you adjust for bridge length, and that's that was let in 24, so I adjusted for a couple of years of inflation. I mean, that equates about $9.3 million. When I looked at the second bidder, there was a huge difference between the low bid and the second bid. The second bid was at 9.98 million, or just under 10 million. So you do that same adjustment, I think that gets you to about 10.9 million. So I think that's, my cost opinion, prior to contingencies was right about 10.5 million for a bridge replacement. So I think that, in my opinion, that lined up very well with that Waverly project.
And the rehab is still at 14, so four additional million just to rehab it.
Yeah, we didn't change the rehab cost, so yes, it was the same amount.
Is that rehab 14 or 16?
Cost for major rehabs 14.
Well, it says cost of repairs too, for a total cost of 16.
16.2, you're right.
Right.
Sorry. So really what you're looking at then is so about a little over 2 million.
Right. And I think, what I was trying to lay out within that report is, you're not comparing apples. You kind of comparing apples and oranges when you look at a rehab versus replacement. I mean, obviously the design lives are going to be considerably different. Like I mentioned, the existing bridge has a ton of patching and repair work that needs to be done. And some of that work's going to have to be redone. And I think, to me, it kind of comes down to, there's a lot of unknowns with the bridge. So, I mean, it's a different mindset for the council to go into a rehab project. I mean, the existing bridge, like I said, it's 115 years old. You think about that the bridge was designed, back when Model Ts were still being manufactured. People had no idea that we'd be driving 80,000-pound semis across this bridge, over 100 years later. Like I said, the plans we have are 1 page. They're very limited plans. So, we to get all removals done, and we discover things in that bridge that we're not aware of. I mean, I think, and there's large extra work order. I mean, the city council's like, yep, we understand that this is, we understand there's extras and that there might be extra costs along the way. Whatever, they're 10 years down the road and something happens, we find something during inspection that takes some emergency repairs. The council needs to understand, yep, we're committed to this and we're moving forward. Like I said, in 20 years, we're talking about some major patchwork. It's just kind of part of owning and maintaining a 100-year-old bridge when you're trying to run modern equipment, across something that's this old. So I'm not trying to sit there and say a rehab is not an option, but I think the council needs to be going to this with their eyes wide open that, there is going to be additional costs. There are going to be things that happen along the way that are going to be surprises. And if that's, it comes down to is from the, if this is an important enough asset to the city and you're willing to take the risks and the challenges and the extra costs associated with it, that, I guess that's the council decision as overseeing the tax dollars that are being spent up there. But from my perspective, when I'm seeing annualized cost as, 2 times the cost of replacement, it's hard for me from the engineering perspective to sit there and say, I recommend a rehab option on this. But, if the council feels that this is important and they want to rehab this, this is definitely a path you can go down.
So when you're talking about that 2 times the cost over the lifespan, you're still looking at your lifespan for the rehab of about 35 years and a new bridge at 65. Correct?
Yes, yeah. Correct. And probably really realistic. There was both might be a little on the conservative side of, trying to be equally conservative on both. So, I'm not trying to skew the number to one side or the other.
Really, though, the immediate next step is just to agree that we need to do something with the bridge.
Correct.
And what type of time, I mean, if you look at this bridge today, say, do you need to do something the next 3 years or the next 10 years?
That's a loaded question. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
Like the Charlie Western Bridge, we never expected that thing to fully fail like it did. I mean, we're not seeing anything that dramatic at this bridge. So I don't anticipate anything dramatic, but it's a 115-year-old bridge. Um, you know, I would recommend that the city continues to move on with a plan to replace this. I mean, I think there are some grants out there right now. The state and cities are, the counties and cities are applying for, with the current federal transportation bill. It seems like a good time to kind of strike when the iron's hot, type thing, as far as pursuing some extra funds.
Don't mean to muddy the water, but when this whole discussion first started, we talked about having the dam looked at as well. And from what I understand, the dam is apparently in decent shape, other than the flume at the south end of the bridge. But when you talk about designing the bridge and all that stuff, the backwater, whatever you call it, hold back water, if that dam wasn't there, how much does that impact any of the decisions that would be made, whether you rehab this one or put in a new one, as far as design?
I think rehab versus replacement, I don't think the dam really has much effect on that at all. I think it's gonna be a means and methods issue as far as how the contractor's gotta deal with the site. Regardless of which option you go with.
Okay, thank you.
And, some of the initial conversations we had, I mean, we hadn't seen inspection reports on that dam for a lot of years. That's why I think I was definitely bringing that up. But I think based on, like I said, the dam's in decent shape, I don't think that is an immediate need for the city to be thinking about that, but.
Also, see if you agree with this, in my experience with bridges, the DOT is conscious of historic value. If it even was a replacement, they'd be open to doing something to pay tribute to the old bridge or something of that nature in the design. I know in a couple of projects I've done, they've allowed some different design things just to make things look better because the city wanted them that way. Is that still the case?
Yes, we've seen the DOT being very, agreeable to general aesthetics on a bridge, whether that's replicating, historical features or, paying tribute to something or something like that. Rehab versus replacement, if it becomes an adverse effect, there will be some sort of agreement that the city needs to do certain items to meet that memorandum of agreement that gets put together as far as an adverse effect.
Because we did have that situation with our walking bridge. When that bridge was destroyed in a flood, of course, that was partially paid for by FEMA. But we had a local committee that worked with our engineers and architects to design that bridge to be reminiscent, or maybe not reminiscent, but what was the word you used? Tribute to the other bridge. So it wasn't like something totally new. It's like, still had certain aspects of the old bridge, but in a modern technique.
Something that would qualify.
Yeah, so I do think that if we do go with a new bridge, I think we would want to have some kind of local input into what that looks like, because I know John mentioned it, most of the aesthetic things would be on the top. But I think that bridge is so visible from the sides, you have to develop the underneath of the bridge to also look reminiscent, because it's so visible both upstream and downstream. But he brought up a good point too. We didn't know when the Charlie Western Bridge was gonna fall down. All of a sudden, one day there's a big hole in it, so.
Yeah.
So I do think we need to plan. I think I don't know if we're gonna make a decision to replace and that's up to you guys, to replace or to restore. From the engineering side of things, both from John and from Lowell, their recommendation certainly is to replace rather than to restore. Cost wise, John mentioned, he talked about the lifespan of the restoration is less. John talked about the inspections on a restored bridge would probably be more as far as frequency of inspections, because here we're dealing with an old structure. So I think those are, I understand the historical part of it.
But those are all realities that you
Exactly.
have to think about.
But I mean, right now, obviously it's a planning session, we're not making a
Right.
firm decision, but our next step is just to acknowledge. We need to move forward and do something
Yeah.
with the bridge, so that way we can then start to go on to the next phase of
And
the
decide, yeah.
project.
To me, we were always very lucky that the old trail bridge wasn't utilized all that much by that many people. But this thing gets a whole lot of traffic every day, and we don't wanna be sitting there with somebody's car or truck or whatever down in the river. I mean, we need to be proactive at getting this process moving to do something.
I would
Because that also
agree.
just lengthens the time too, if you don't have a plan.
Exactly.
I feel uneasy about this, maybe that's the best word, because I feel like we're already at the stage where we've said, we need to do something with the bridge. So to say that we now have to vote, to say we need to do something with the bridge, I feel like we've done that, or we wouldn't have, engaged with, Lowell. So if that's not true, I guess it's not my statement, is that not true? We've never said as a council,
We haven't decided yet. We just had the feasibility study. Now we need to decide. Yep, because one of the options was do nothing in this study, so we haven't told them whether or not we want to do something.
so that's literally okay.
So that's
Yeah,
what this is right
Yeah,
now.
because this work was really giving us the background to see, like, does something need to be done
And what, yeah.
immediately, and what are some of the options, because we didn't really know. I don't feel like we had a good picture of the condition of the bridge prior to this work. It does seem like doing all this is saying, I get where you're coming from,
Yeah,
but it was more like, what's our timeline? Does it need to be? Or,
got it, yeah,
Yeah.
and as long as we don't have to pick an option, I'm comfortable
Yeah, we
Why
don't,
wouldn't we
moving
want
forward.
an option?
yeah, we don't
well,
have to.
we do have to pick an option
No.
moving forward, but I think the
Not
first
yet, not
step,
right now, we don't.
yeah.
Whether to move forward or not. to
Yeah,
move
yeah,
forward,
yeah,
the-
that's what we're doing.
And this-
Whether.
This is all about finding out how bad the bridge really was.
Yes,
You know, the reports came back and we're like, okay, what do we need to do? How quick do we need to do it? This to me is telling us that we need to keep this process moving forward, not sit here for another 2 or 3 years. And get a plan, get a design, if we're gonna replace it, get a design, or get a plan in place to refurbish, whatever. But I don't know that we're all ready to make that. We've obviously got a bunch of questions and things, so. There's gonna have to be some more time to go through that, but I don't think we wanna be sitting, waiting till we decide what we wanna do.
exactly.
Other than replace or not replace, do something. The bridge,
Got it.
we've gotta have this bridge out here,
Yeah, I'm,
whatever it is.
I agree.
My only counterpoint to that is, we had this discussion 3 years ago. We said, we need to get a firm, engineering firm, which is Lowell. And go do the study of the Main Street Bridge and the other bridge by Zoe's.
Gilbert Street.
Yeah, so they did that, and they both came back fair. And to the mayor's point, during my first year on council, we said, yes, the Main Street Bridge likely gonna have to be replaced. We didn't have a discussion on the rehabilitation, but to your point, in that discussion, if you go back and watch the video 3 years ago, we had the discussion where the community needs to provide the input to how that bridge would look in the future. Now, let's fast forward 3 years, let's go 2 years, we had a major flood. Okay? And then we have yet another weight restriction put on the bridge. To be honest with you, I'm tired of this. To me, I understand we're not making the decision tonight, the decision is, for me, is the bridge has got to get replaced. Now, does that be a rehab? Or a total replacement? I look at as my job to be on the council as the steward to the citizens on cost. And I look at a engineering firm that says, 2 million more for a rehab, but that's only a best guess because you gotta take the decking off, you gotta look inside the actual 115-year-old structure. Unknowns, you're really not gonna know that till you commit it. I also look at it from the cost to just, if you went with the rehab, you're talking double the cost to the city just to do the inspections. And then most importantly is we spend either 12 million, we spend 16 million or 14 million, what are we getting out as a city? What are we gonna get out of that? And either you're gonna get 35 years or you're gonna get 65 years. And to be a good steward with that, I'm at the point, I don't know why yes, there could be some investigation on what a rehab, is it even viable? Or is there funds there? But I really don't want to see this go on for another two or 3 years. You're already looking at 2 or 3 years. Once we commit to a plan and that the engineering part starts, it's still gonna be 2 or 3 years before somebody can drive across that bridge. So we have 3 summers worth of floods to, whenever that we start going down that path, we got all that time. Either the bridge is gonna be taken out or it's gonna be sitting there idle while we're getting the funding put in place. I personally don't wanna kick this can down the road. We started this conversation 3 years ago. I'm at the point where I get the rehabilitation. I really do. I like history. I like the look of that. But today, they're not gonna let us build a bridge like that. The cost to rehabilitate it and then maintain it for me, is gonna put an undue burden on the citizen as far as the cost and us as a council, as our budgets continue to get tighter and tighter every year. I'd rather see us put money towards road improvement, infrastructure improvement, above ground, underground, with that savings of just the maintenance side alone. That's where I'm at right now. I'm tired. I don't wanna kick this can down the road.
I appreciate your comments, but at the same time, there's one part you're really missing, Patrick, is if this community wants to do that, and if everybody in this town says, you guys are not gonna get rid of that bridge, as long as we've had all the discussions, and the community wants to support rehabbing this bridge and spending $20 million more than what it would take to replace it. As long as the community's willing to do that and suffer the cost and go with that, that's a community decision. If we're the ones that have to make it, but we have to make it with input from the community.
When do we make
And
that?
I don't know, but that's part of this process, is having a discussion.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're ready to make that decision. And this process moves slow. It's no different than the nuisance thing. Those things take time. It's a slow process because you can't throw all the dollars that you want to at it immediately. Believe me, I've sat here longer than you have with these kind of decisions.
And
You
John,
know, I get frustrated too, but at the same time, it's the process and that's what you have to go through.
and John Lowell, this question is for you too. Like I said, it seems like we're gonna decide to move forward with one decision or the other. What is the time frame? What for the next, when that decision has to be made on whether or not we rehab versus replace? After we decide tonight or Monday, whenever it is, that we're gonna move forward with something, when does the next step have to be decided?
Well, I think the next step would be just a council passing a resolution that, so you're on record saying that, yes, a crossing improvement is needed. Now, as far as then into the design, I'll let Councilman Burns respond to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, like I said, there's about one more report that needs to be done before we can make that submittal to the DOT. So yes, we would need to get council approval to proceed with that little bit of additional cost to get what referred to as something, a little bit of environmental work done. So we can kind of proceed to that next step. But yeah, within the next few months, we'd be submitting that concept statement to the DOT to start that discussion. Then it'll take the DOT generally take several months to to kind of review that documentation and start really having all those discussions internally. And they got a backlog like everybody else. It takes a little while to get that process. So, we'd probably be talking, I'd say 6 months out until that final decision's made.
Okay, so that gives us more time to discuss this as well.
And I would like to take that time also to hear more from
Yes.
our historical preservation committee and the state we've looked at it kind of from one view. I don't think we have the same kind of facts for if we rehabbed it. we've got a lot of facts behind if we build a new bridge. So
Yeah.
just gives us more time to explore options, yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's more time for more public input.
yes.
And I don't think you wanna be sitting there 3 years from now. I think this council needs to make a decision on it within the next calendar year.
Yeah.
What you're gonna do with the bridge, so you can really get the plans done and everything else. So that if there's any funding sources that come up, any grants, anything like that, you can be in line for them to get it done. But I don't think anybody's ready to make a decision
Yeah.
tonight.
And it really sounds like by, you know, doing what John has said, saying and a crossing improvement is needed, then
Oh, yeah.
that's not gonna make it drag on for 3 more years. There's, you know, steps that have to happen, and then, you know, 6 months, that decision would be made, which is a lot of time to have discussions, to hear back from SHPO, to allow the community to come and tell us, you know, what they are thinking as well. And to just get more feedback, get that information. But not to have it drag on so long that we're stuck
Yeah.
with, you know, a bridge that
Yeah.
suddenly does fail, because that's what none of us want. Nobody wants a bridge that fails. No matter how you want the end product to look, you don't want a current bridge that fails, so we don't wanna drag our feet.
Yeah.
So,
So to that point, point well taken. But, for Lowell though, what is the line in the sand where, when a decision, so we say, yes, we need a new crossing, step A. When is the line in the sand? And I go back to the way the funding at a government level changes. Not every day, but our federal funding right now is still bad. So regardless of what you do, replace or rehabilitate, you're gonna have to have federal funding. But when would we have to have a decision made on rehabilitate or replace? Based off the current nature of how the government is operating today and federal funding available as of today, your best guess to me.
I mean, that's, you know, this process I'm talking about dealing with SHPO and everybody else, and these conversations you're having locally, you know, getting through some of that process is going to, and a consensus being made by all the different entities involved here, and a clear direction of where the project is going to put the city in a much better light as far as writing a grant application. Because within the grant applications, there are hard deadlines as far as when the money has to be obligated and when the construction has to be completed and the money being fully expenditures. So when we're kind of in the situation we are now, where there's still a lot of unknowns there, the grant teams get pretty nervous about trying to promote that type of project forward. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is we need to get through this next phase, this next 6 months at least, and get everybody shaking their head going, yep, this is the plan moving forward. And then I think that point, that's when your grant applications can really start kind of taking off. And those grants kind of seem to kind of vary. You know, the current transportation bill was written under Biden, but I think, you know, they're continuing a bunch of these grants moving forward. How that changes when the transportation bill gets reauthorized, I'm not exactly sure what year that is, but you know, it's like you said, it changes, and I'm not sure if I can give you a really hard number on that.
6 months. So basically, April 15th, we would need to have a direction we need to go. I mean, we're also up against, you know, what happens if we have a 2008 flood and it takes the bridge out. Now we're dead in the water. No bridge and no plan. So April, is that what it?
Yeah, I mean,
April 15th?
the DOT moves at their own pace. You know, I'm not going to sit there and guarantee that we're going to have a decision ready by April 15th. I mean, that's just you know, kind of a guess. And historical stuff moves at its own pace a bit sometimes, especially with the DOT.
I mean, but it gives us a timeline to work. I mean, to Delaine's and Phoebe's point, I mean, collecting the feedback, and how we collect the feedback, I guess that's gonna be a question. A future planning session where we get feedback from the community on that, but it gives us a timeline to go with.
So my question is, and I thought I heard this when you spoke, Lowell. Will we need to make a decision in which direction we would want to move before we apply for grants?
I don't think that's necessarily a
Yeah.
mandatory within the grant application, but it puts you in a much better light if a lot of those decisions are made.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
I was
that,
thinking we were trying to use that, you know, that availability of grants to decide which direction to move in. If there were grants for like from SHPO, but we won't really know that unless we decide to go that direction, it sounds like. Am I correct in saying that?
when you start talking the values that we're talking about here for the size of bridge, most of that is through a transportation type grant. I guess I'm not aware of any historical grants that would even come close to, getting, touching this size of project.
Okay,
So, I mean, I think, you apply for a grant, I mean, that could probably, obviously you'd be writing the grant depending on whether you're planning on rehab versus replacement. I think that's, that would be known at that time, by the time you're putting that grant application together.
So I think we're starting to spin our wheels here a little bit.
Yeah, we are.
I think the decision is that we need to make a decision. Yes, it's time to look at.
Yeah.
Whatever the wordage was you said, John.
An improvement, crossing improvement.
Yeah, we need to make that decision. And to Patrick's point of view, we need to stay on the,
Yes.
keep our foot on the gas going forward, so it doesn't, we aren't here 4 months from now having the same discussion that we had tonight.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the direction we want to go, is put that on the agenda to do, yes, we are in favor of moving forward, because we've heard from many different comments, we don't want to pull in the bridge with no plan. So I think that's kind of where we're at. What that plan will be is to be determined, but it's going to be determined in the near future, not the distant future. So does that kind of summarize everything?
I just had one more comment, and it's not to that, but this is basically accepting the final report, correct? We had a draft report in August, this is the final report. Within the final report, we know we have the deficiencies in the flumes, especially the one by the courthouse side.
Yes.
We had talked about making sure we have fencing up. Has that been taken care of?
That has not been addressed yet, no.
How soon can it get addressed? Because if we accept this report on Monday as final, then would we not be liable if somebody got hurt on that? Now,
We've acknowledged there's a problem.
what's that?
We've acknowledged there's a problem.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my point.
Yeah.
We could fence that off tomorrow. I mean, I'm speaking for the street guys, so they probably come and kick my butt if they can't do it tomorrow, but
Right.
that might be stretching it, but quickly, all it takes is the consensus that we need to do that, and we can get it done.
Thank you.
Some temporary fencing at least.
Yeah.
But we're also gonna need to have the police kind of watching that area, because there are gonna be all sorts of people crawl right over a temporary fence because they've always fished down there,
Yeah.
they've always been in there, so. We're gonna need to have you guys help to keep people out of there.
Get some information out about it. Yeah.
All right. So I think we have a plan. Anything else, John, you want to finalize?
No, thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Discussion.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Lowell.
All right, nuisance code amendments. Is this a long process, chief?
I can make it a real short process.
I was gonna say, because we have a couple shorter processes coming up, let's let them go first. You can be, we will let you go.
You can time. So under 50 of our city ordinance there, we're looking at adding number 13. And if you look, that's the outdoor storage, adding that entire paragraph there. We amended that. That was one we had taken, if you guys remember, from another ordinance, and it was brought up. I think by Chris, if I'm not mistaken, about, parks, we took that part out. Otherwise, we left it pretty much the same, and the reason would be just because we know that's been court tried and true. It just gives us a lot more to go on, so it makes it a lot more enforceable. And then junk vehicle is actually under 51 under definitions, which helps us under 52, under number 50 also. We actually put licensed and unlicensed there on there, and then we added flat tire or flat tires. And then if it's not moved from its location, we had the discussion that right now it's 30 days. And I think Patrick brought it up 15 days, and we discussed that on the staff level. We think that's actually a really good idea. I know that a citizen that time said, well, what if my fiance or whatever, somebody in my family's on vacation? We're not looking for that. We're looking obviously for something. I mean, we don't go around and tag a car and then say, hey, it's been there over, 15 days and everything else. So we're looking more for nuisances. So it's not something that would probably attract our attention anyway. We don't feel that that would be,
You just have to push hard.
Yeah, it's a little sticky.
There you
go.
So. These changes were made after we spoke with you guys. I think they're modeled after what you guys had talked to. After we had brought up what we thought we'd change, we think that it'll help quite a bit. Especially number 13 there. It makes things a lot cleaner in the language. We have had a couple times have issues with some of when we get to court, some of the prosecution on those. So that really helps a lot, number 13. And then the vehicle thing is really, it's been a hard thing to come and go. And so this will actually make things a lot more, I guess, user friendly for us.
I appreciate you listening to our feedback.
Yeah, to your point, 15 days is good. I think, you and I would agree that there's some vehicles out there that I think Google thinks they're a landmark now, right? So.
When you look at Google from 2007 and they're still on there,
Still there.
probably this happened. And that's one of the things we had issue with, because before it was licensed, they had to be licensed or whatever, and then people license their vehicles and don't move them. So now if they have a flat tire, so our code before read, if you remember, it was if they were unlicensed. So let's say they're licensed them every year, spending that money, and then it was if they're inoperable. Well, inoperable means that they have to be missing a part for that. A lot of times it was the motor. We don't know if they're missing a motor. We don't know if they're missing brake lines. We don't know if they're missing any of that by seeing that. So this makes it a lot easier to enforce. So we don't see that it'll be an issue with the 15 days. Actually, we appreciated that after we talked about that. And you bring that up, Patrick, we appreciated that 15 days is a lot, probably easier than 30 days, because as we know, all these things take time. Our new man is up and running. If you didn't know, Hunter Ortmeyer, he's up and running, and he came out of the gate very quickly, and he's getting a lot done, and he's finding out that, man, people just don't clean up stuff when you just go knock on the door and talk to them. So I think Brad's gonna have some for a little while. He's gonna get inundated with some stuff, but it's good. So this just really helps with the enforcement aspect of it, so.
We had a lot of good discussion, a lot of in-depth discussion, and it was time to have that discussion. I took 4 notes towards the end, so I apologize for that, but I sent you an email today that just for my own clarification, so we have vehicles parked in the city right away.
So that's
not a
something
nuisance, right?
that's something, right, that's not a nuisance, so that's something that we would like to address, when I do the codification here this winter. Doing a lot of changes in the code, we haven't had our codification done since, I think, 2007, if I'm not mistaken, fully. So that's what's on our website, and so we're going to try to get that done, and that's gonna be one of the things that we're actually gonna address in there. So we can just make it an easy parking ticket. When we do that, then the officer can just go by and do a parking ticket on that. So right now falls under John's preview, probably under more of a zoning issue, and we're under the UDO, so not really sure which it is, but parking on the yard and everything else. So this will be a little easier to clean that up, so.
Thank you.
Chief, with this junk vehicle issue, the nuisance issue, what is the remedy? What would they have to, what does the remedy need to be for that situation? for one of those situations with the junk vehicle?
Remedy, I'm sorry.
I mean, what do they have to do to remedy the nuisance?
Oh, they would have to abate it some way,
That's
get it
what-
so that it's not,
They
don't violate.
They don't have to like, say if they took it, okay, it's been sitting in this location. Or, and they just move it down the street or whatever, or up into the driveway or whatever that may be. Is that considered abating the situation?
No, so this is on private property. This isn't in the street.
This is.
If it's on the street, then the officers are tagging it, ticketing it. So it's not, this is on private property only. This is for the nuisance vehicle on private property.
Okay,
So if it's in the street, then we ticket it. Obviously come winter when plows go around,
yeah,
it's really easy to see the ones on our move. We end up towing them.
oh,
So
okay,
we tow several vehicles.
so they have to basically make it operable or
Right, or yeah,
dispose of it or something like that.
yeah, just so it doesn't violate this code in any way. So a lot of times what happens is, not a lot of times, sometimes I'm gonna say, maybe half the time, it's when we speak with them. They'll tell us, hey, I know it's been there, it's junk, I wanna get rid of it, I don't know how to do it. And we just introduce them to one of the recyclers here in town and say, all you need, if you have your title or your registration, they can take it there and they're actually going to pay you and come and pick it up. And that's usually very appealing to them, and sometimes that's how we take care of those, but you have the others, it was my dad's car, my grandpa's old car, and I would fix it up, so.
Other comments, questions? Thank you for doing that. Like I said, I think our
I didn't
discussion.
speak as quickly as I normally do.
Well, you did good stuff.
Okay, good. Yeah, just thank you guys for all your work on
Yeah,
that.
you listen to what.
It's long and tedious.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Sales stand permit. John, you wanna?
John wasn't here for that discussion, by the way.
Oh, he was?
Vacation.
Well, I can take it.
Yeah, okay, Dan, great.
We talked about it with Brad in the Thursday meeting, and Brad pretty much put this together based upon our discussion last time. And what we brought up about, and so all of these things are basically what we talked about. And then pretty much Brad put this permit application together, so I don't know if you wanna look at that and see if that covers everything we talked about. From my memory, it does. We talks about it's got a place for the owner to sign off on it. And the 2 feet thing, and that it's fastened to the wall. Those were the 3 main things I remember that we discussed that are all covered in here.
Yeah, when I looked at it, it seemed to hit all the points that we had talked about. I mean, it clearly limits the space it takes up on the sidewalk. It has to be attached so that it's not fallen over. I couldn't think of anything that we talked about that wasn't, I didn't notice anything that wasn't in there.
We talked about snow, and so we have it cut, has to be removed by October or something, whatever. that
October
is.
31st, yeah.
So,
Choose to say that, no, it's snow.
I agree, when I looked at it, I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah.
We talked about it, wasn't in.
Very clean, yeah, and then it also addresses, the property owners have to
Yes.
sign up on this as well, so nobody could just come out in front of another person's property and set up a
Set
stand
up shop.
on
Yeah.
the street, so yeah,
Yeah.
it covers that as well.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good work.
The only thing I might like to see is maybe a term. I don't wanna get to a point where people are not doing a pop-up stand or some kind of thing to sell with, as a permanent business plan, like they're doing this to test the market, to see if they could open a building downtown, so maybe, I know we said they have to come back every year and ask, but if we could write in something like, I don't know, 3 years max.
Yeah, for the same,
Kind of.
for the
discussed
same
what
business
was
stand.
Outcome. Do you remember, Phoebe?
I don't remember discussing that in particular. I just remember that it, like, I think what we had discussed was kind of this, that it just couldn't be continuous. But I remember it the same as Krista, that it was like a reapplication.
Yeah.
But you do bring up a good point, you know, if you are doing it to sort of test out a business model. You know, a certain number of reapplications on that same model. Now, another year or 2 later, you got a new idea. You could come back with your new idea. again, but.
And I think maybe the October 31st thing, if it does really well, you're probably not gonna wanna take that time off.
The October 31st.
Yes.
It's, they can,
Oh, I see.
yeah, their fee of $250 gives them the permit from January 1 to October 31. At this point, I'm okay if limiting language isn't in there yet with the knowledge that, we, as Patrick is fond of reminding us, like, we gotta revisit it, cause you're
Yeah.
right, we do. So, kind of revisit it and see, where we're at.
Yeah, when they reapply, we can always gently turn them towards that if we would,
Cause it also gives us some time, it's hard to tell somebody too, like, hey, we know you wanna test out a business, but also. Where are you going to put that business? We don't have a ton of like small spaces for small business startups.
And the other-
There's some.
Well, the other thing is, though, you have, other businesses in town that are paying real estate taxes and everything else that. You don't want to encourage a whole lot more of the temporary stuff, which takes away from the established businesses, so. I mean, I'm all for having people getting started, not
Right.
starting to say that, but at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the established businesses and. What they're doing, so.
So maybe a limit does. From
Yeah,
the
I mean,
beginning.
that's
So
not
that
a
way
bad
it's
idea,
clear to
didn't think about
everybody.
that, but the same business may, do the 2 years in a row or something, and that's it, Again, if they come up with a new idea, that's something else, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that, cause that could be just added right in there, October 31 of the same calendar year. Permits may be renewed. 2 times after the initial permit for a total of 3 or whatever council is.
I guess I'd be hesitant to do that, because
This
this is, I mean, the one we have in front of us is
Very
very
nice.
much seasonal.
Yeah.
She's growing her flowers out in the country somewhere, she doesn't need a building. So I understand your point about you have people that are paying property tax, but Tiffany is paying the property tax on this one, so she wants to charge her rent. Besides our permit fee, if she wants to charge her rent for it being attached to her building, that's Tiffany's decision, not ours, so. I would not put in, I mean, because it's reviewed every year, that's where we could make a change. But I would be hesitant to put in you can only do this for 3 years and then you're out of business, well. Now what am I gonna do, go down to Tom Box and ask him if I can do it at his place now?
I would also like especially if we start to see more of these as people, if they really do want to use it as an incubator to test. I would love to have, and I look in this direction, like a list of available. Storefronts and who they could contact to say, is this available? How much would it cost to rent it? So that way, that information is just readily accessible to a potential new business owner. If they've tested this out, say, are you ready for the next step? Here's some information, just thinking in the future, if someone does want to use this like that. I would assume that a list like that exists somewhere, but maybe that's just something we need to have in the folder with this information too.
And I wanna make sure we're thinking bigger than this person and this ask, because we're open floodgates here. If we do this for one person, well, we're gonna see a lot of people saying, hey, this is a cheap way I can sell my muffins, or whatever it might be.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree with what you said about the case that brought this to us, but, I wanna think longer term and bigger picture. What can of worms are we opening?
It's gonna be easier to have something in there that would limit the times you could apply. Than to go on a case by case basis and say, oh, well, this one, we're not gonna review this time, or we're not gonna renew. I prefer having it right up front that everybody knows their playing field. It's kind of like the food trucks. I love food trucks, I'm glad that we got people doing that sort of stuff, but we've had, I don't know how many times I've sat in Mark's, office down there in different groups and talked about, we need more restaurants in town, we need more variety, well, why should anybody want to buy a building, set it all up and try to run a restaurant in it when they can bring a food truck in and pay $100 permit fee and literally take meals away from every other established restaurant in town? And really, I realize they've got overhead in their truck and everything else, but that's still impacting every other restaurant that tries to operate in town. You know, I just never thought that those fees were high enough for the food trucks, but, you know, it's one of those things, where do you draw the line?
Right.
So you don't wanna discourage people, you don't wanna discourage entrepreneurs, but at the same time, you gotta be cognizant of everybody else that's paying taxes in town.
I have one more concern I wanna bring up. I wish Brad was here. I know he put indemnification language in here. But don't tell me they're not gonna sue the city if something happens. They're gonna go after everybody they can. So then, even if it's here, we may have a legal battle on our hands. It's gonna cost us money and time and resources. So I feel it's our property. We're gonna get sued if something happens. So, just something to be aware
Brad will be here Monday to
Yeah.
answer that question.
Yeah.
for you.
Well, I think in this case, it's not on our property, it's on.
of. No, it's on our
It's on
property.
sidewalk, yeah.
Yeah, it's on sidewalk.
Yeah, but that's,
It's physically
that's the
attached
same
to-
situation as a public sidewalk. You're walking down the sidewalk, the city sidewalk in front of my house. If something happens, I'm liable for it. So it would be the same thing with business owners.
You may be, but so is the city. They could sue us too.
But
The
Not-
city's just saying you.
Not
have to
successfully.
park this.
I've never seen a successful case of a city being sued.
There's
What's going on right
I
now?
was gonna say,
down-
there's a case.
What's going on right now down
Case
there?
goes on, but like I said, I've never seen a successful case.
I think
And
it's
the
a,
legislature's changed, has addressed that too, is that, are those sidewalks the owner's responsibility, liability wise? Or are they the city's liability wise?
Yeah.
That was discussed the last.
And
it
if that,
didn't- it
if that
didn't-
changes, you'll see every city tear out every sidewalk in the city. But I don't see that happening, but I mean.
I think it's a really good,
Up until this point, it's never been that issue. It's always been the property owner liable for whatever happens on that sidewalk.
Or that it turns into law, it's gonna change everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right, Krista. It's everybody's fair game at that point if something happens.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point to bring up with Brad just so that way we know walking into it for sure what are we looking at? And I do think we need to kind of make some decision if that language is gonna be in there limiting the number of renewals you get from the beginning.
I guess
Because it is maybe better than a case by case basis. I totally get the idea of like, oh, not. Yeah,
I don't agree with that. So, I mean, I guess that's just a matter of opinion. I don't agree with the limitation of it. I don't think if you do the limitation, I think some people just won't do it at all.
Well, they've always got the option to go rent a building or do something else.
Yeah, but
They don't have to put
that's
it on
very,
the sidewalk.
it's very cost prohibitive. And when you're thinking about Main Street, what is the availabilities of buildings to rent on Main Street anyway? It's not a lot of space to even rent on Main Street. If you wanted to put something together.
Well, no, there's about 4 locations right at the Union House.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, but the cost of those.
Right, the cost,
And that's what I mean, the cost.
availability is not so much
And
the
that,
cost.
and that also speaks to the food truck situation. I mean, I understand that. Yeah, they're taking away from the physical brick and mortar locations, but that's a trend across the United States and it's not gonna change. You know, food trucks are the way of the future, just like electronic shopping, shopping online is a trend of the future. We have to learn, accept and adapt to it. We can't look at it as if, oh, they're taking away from this. That's what it is. That's where it's going to.
It's also entirely possible this is the only one we ever get, and she might do it for a year and decide it's not worth it, and the whole thing goes away.
That's true. Yeah.
So the question becomes, do we wanna put that, if we're gonna vote on this on Monday night, do you want that limitation in there or not?
I do not personally. I don't know about everybody else.
I guess I would, I don't have a vote.
Could we see what the language would look like and then we can determine that night if like we wanna vote on it with that language added or without it, just so that way. Like,
Could you,
get Brad's feedback.
could you get a hold of Brad tomorrow and have?
Yeah, we have our regular scheduled meeting in the morning, so I can.
And
bring it
visit
up.
with him and then send an email to.
And the time's up for this year anyway. You can't do it beyond October 31st, so is there a big rush? Do we
There's
have?
no big- You're right.
Right,
No big rush.
And,
yeah.
and actually, this does talk about the, holding the, city harmless. It
Right.
is in there. Yeah, that language is in here.
Like I said, even if,
Yeah, doesn't mean much.
Yeah.
that doesn't mean much, and it'll tie us up in
Yeah,
court fees.
Maybe we don't put this on
Agree to
Monday night.
indemnify and hold the city of Charleston.
We can, yeah, we can hold off.
Good point.
Take it up, bring it up again.
October 29th planning session for another review, and then we can look at maybe on the third if you decide to.
Because it-
Yeah, we got plenty.
Yeah, you're right, there's,
You have till probably April, actually.
yeah, there's no rush.
Good point.
Now,
Okay.
the whole harmless thing, is people will tell you that they're not worth the paper they're written on, but you should do it anyway.
Right.
I mean, so
You can't.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's in here already though.
it's in there.
It is in.
Yeah, but
All right. So we'll get some input from Brad, and this will probably not be on Monday night's
Yeah,
agenda.
that's,
All right, discussions from planning and zoning to amend building heights. John and I, Kim is patiently waiting, because that's what kind of this request is from to the planning and zoning, so.
Yeah,
John?
so, Tim with the Charles City Area Development Corporation recently contacted the city and asked, currently our UDO allows for 40-foot high buildings, maximum building heights in the industrial districts, the M1, the M2 districts, as well as 3 stories. So Tim explained to us that, it's limiting potential development in Charles City, and as an economic development tool, he asked if this UDO would be, if we could look at raising that height to 75 feet. I did check with our fire department, and they can, they can fight fires to that. And also with higher buildings through the building code, as you get higher and higher, different requirements are needed to mitigate fire prevention. And we have a code enforcement department. When building permits applications come in, that's one of the review processes is to look at, okay, what's the construction. So instead of having just an arbitrary height, I thought it would be good to look at 75 feet. And the Planning and Zoning Commission, and actually this is somewhat time sensitive, the Planning and Zoning Commission met October 1st. They set a public hearing on this at 5 o'clock tonight. So they met just before this meeting in a public hearing. And they did pass along a recommendation. And what they are recommending is the, in that ordinance 1195, basically the bulk requirements would stay the same, except for maximum height go to 75 feet. And they actually are recommending maximum stories to 6 stories. So that's their recommendation. And what we'd like to do is, that's why we wanted to talk about it tonight, because what we'd like to do is November 3rd, have the first reading, have the council set a public hearing. And then for November 17th, at that time, hold the public hearing, hold the second reading. And actually, what we'd be requesting is to waive the 3rd reading. So we could get this passed and amended. And I didn't want to steal any of Tim's thunder, so I would like to have the council hear from Tim.
Well, John, you did a great job laying out the parameters of the situation in this memo to the city council. It's simply, we don't know whether we are as competitive as we could be. Because when we get requests for proposal, requests for information, what's your maximum building height? It's always 40 feet. We don't know if that's disqualified us in the past, but the possibility exists, and therefore it's 70. And the most common height among progressive cities is the 75 feet. And partially that is due because it's cheaper to build up than out. Second of all, preserve your green space. And third of all, some manufacturing processes flow better vertically than they do horizontally.
I guess in the memo, John, it said, 75 feet, 4 stories, but you said the recommendation was to go 6. What was the thought process behind making it 6 instead of 4?
Yes, so the commission felt that at 12-foot stories, that you could actually have 70 with a flat roof, have 6 stories within that 75. And what they wanted to do is just provide a little bit more flexibility. And what they were saying is, instead of having to maybe come back later, and make yet another change, just make both changes at this time.
To me, I thought 4 stories and 75 foot seemed odd
I
anyway,
did too, yeah.
but I just didn't know if there was a thought process behind
Yeah.
either recommendation.
But I was doing some kind of math wrong.
I'm understanding this right, it wouldn't be any taller than 75 feet, so
Yeah.
it would have more floors on it.
Right,
Yeah, it
Got
could
it.
have up to 6 stories, but 75 feet would be the maximum height.
That,
And CCADC would like to commend the city for the services we received from the city engineer. It's been a very positive experience. We asked to fast track this and it's getting done, so we're very pleased. Thank you.
I mean,
Sounds very feasible to me. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
and if neighboring communities are doing it, then you're right, we don't know if it's a disqualifying factor, so let's just make sure it's not one.
Yeah, exactly. I would
Where
hate
are-
that it was.
sorry. Well, if I didn't-
Oh, no, I was just saying, I would hate to find out in retrospect if this was something that disqualified us from, you know. So, yeah, I'm glad that you're being proactive about it and, you know, bringing it to our insight so that we can try to take care of the situation and it won't be a hindrance.
We have had companies ask about
Oh, you have,
it.
okay.
Yes, we have.
What areas of the community are zone M1, like some examples of where this would be relevant?
Well, of course, the certified site. The White Farm area, you know, that area up in there. Let's see, I think out the eastern edge, there's some M1.
Out by Superior Lumber
Yeah,
out in that
yeah,
area,
big
so that old development part
Yeah.
there, yeah.
So let's see, and of course, you know, the Southwest Development Park.
Yep. Okay, nothing like in the downtown area or
No, no,
anything close to many other
no, the
residential
closest,
structures.
closest to downtown would be, you know, the White Farm area.
Yeah. I mean, that would be the one concern I'd have is where are you gonna put, you know, tall buildings, what are they gonna be next to? And things like that, so those are the areas I can think of, but I wasn't sure if there's anything else anywhere that I wasn't thinking about. Thank you.
Sounds like a good term.
Move forward, those dates that you're talking about then.
Yeah, so this will be on Monday's agenda for first reading as well as setting a public hearing.
All right. So we're down to city administrator report, anything, Dan, tonight?
Not a lot, next week is gonna be TIF and all TIF and where we have some reports due on, so, and. Also, I'll send out, this is gonna be in my update I send out in the next couple of days, but. My work schedule is gonna change around a little bit because the ICMA conference is in Tampa. So I'll work 4 days next week, which is good because that's, I need that extra day to get the TIF done.
I set his schedule.
So,
Next week.
so I'll be working for the next planning session, I'll be flying back. I'm supposed to get into Minneapolis at 10:30 if everything goes well, I'll be back in the office between whenever I get out of Minneapolis to get back to here and then do the planning session, and I'll work Thursday and Friday that week, so.
Very good,
That's
anything else?
it. No, that's it.
All right.
I do have a question for Van. Are we planning a discussion on the middle school agreement in the near future? Planning session?
The former middle school,
Mhm.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think the discussion comes about when he gets something done and that development agreement he's already missed out on a couple of years of tax abatement. So I don't think if we made a decision today, we'd be back here 2 years from now, changing it again, so.
Okay.
I
I
gotta
think,
go,
I
he's
think
got
discussion happens once he gets done and then, okay, what, you messed up on 4 years of tax abatement. Well, I still want 10.
No,
That's something, I think it's gotta be closer to completion myself.
And I think he's gotta come to us, like that's
Right.
kind of on him, maybe that's just the teacher in me, your work is late, that's not on me to fix, you know?
Do you have kids that bring papers that late?
No, not that late.
John, you said you had, on the city staff reports, you said you had a couple of things.
Yeah, I have two items, just what there'll be, things that are coming Monday to you, it's actually things we've already talked about, but just wanted to bring it to your attention. The 2025 storm sewer improvement project, that's a project we're going to let, at the end of the month, have a public hearing on the third. Monday, I do have some easements, we have some easements that we had to get, those are coming in, and just be on the agenda for approval, so we can get those recorded. As well as we just received the, it's called the Section 130 Crossing Safety Improvement Agreement. This is for the North Grand Crossing at the CPKC. So the railroad has signed that agreement, now the city has to execute it, and then the DOT executes it. I'd like to bring that Monday. We've been talking about these crossings for a long time, but I'd like to bring that to you because until the railroad has a fully executed agreement, they will not start procuring the signal equipment, and that's about a 9-month process. So I'd like to get that, in their hands as soon as possible so that we can hopefully have a project yet next summer.
Brittany, anything for you tonight?
Just, we talked about our regular meetings Monday, Philip will be on via Zoom, correct? Next planning session is on October 29th, so, and, I will be gone, so Janine will be doing the planning session. I'll prepare it all.
You're gonna be gone?
I'm leaving you guys for 4 days.
Oh, what?
You gotta take matches.
Yeah.
I will have both matching shoes on today, I like today, I didn't yesterday.
You did?
I heard about that.
Bad, I didn't.
When the auditors were here?
I turned around and went home first. I did. It was a early morning, you guys.
I understand that.
Black and blue look alike early in the morning,
It
you
was
know?
golden leopard.
And that's what I told her. I said, I've had people in the office do navy blue and black and not realize it until they got it to the light.
should
But
just
not
bring-
leopard and black.
It was really dark in my, and really early.
Stay behind the desk.
But the leopard has black in it, you could have just said it was a style choice, there's a new trend, you guys just started with it.
So I didn't need the auditors thinking I lost my shoes, so.
Has everything gone okay with the auditors this week?
They were here just yesterday,
Okay.
so,
You gotta double the segregation of duties.
always.
Always.
I don't know a city who hasn't been through that. I'm okay with that,
Yep.
but, yeah, anyway, that's all I have.
Anybody else with any board or commission or committee reports?
Parks and Rec met tonight, they're moving forward with their master plan and prioritizing what goes where, and they've directed Tyler to get some quotes on certain things so they can start sort of plowing away at that budget and working with what they get, so.
Airport Authority met today and they're gonna be letting are hoping to let their T-hanger project, 10-place T-hanger project sometime after the first of the year. They've got an individual out there that's building the hangar just north of the workshop area out there, and that's floors, I think, mostly poured, all the footings are in and stuff like that. Lost the name of the same construction firm that's doing the city hall. It's gonna be building the Kingland, thank you. Gonna be building it, and then they're also looking at a runway extension out there, going through all the hoops to. Hopefully, they've been talking about that for a long time, So, because they're getting more and more jet traffic out there.
I hope as they move forward, you'll notice progress quicker than you have across the way.
Fine, like I said, they just started this and they've already got footings and some floor, so.
All right.
Probably why they're not getting us down here, they're out there.
They're out there, there you go. All right,